We're going to make some gumbo, my favorite item. And the only reason I haven't made it more often is because I'm so lazy to make the most important ingredient, which is this, the brown roux. So a few weeks back I made a quart of this, put it in the refrigerator. And then when you need it, and you want to make something like this, you have it ready. Because this can take you, well, I'm going to give you the link to my video on how to make the roux, but it takes at least a half hour, and you can't leave the stove. So it's annoying when you want to make something quick and you have to just do, well, anyway, you get that out of the way, and you either put it in the refrigerator or the freezer. Anytime you want to make a gumbo, you have it. There are those in Louisiana that don't use this dark brown roux. And one of them is Paul Prudhomme. I remember working with him, and he likes a very thin, like a vegetable looking type gumbo. Not that it was bad, but I enjoy, and a lot of people do, the thicker something is, the longer it stays in your mouth. And that's why. So we have shrimps. I'm going to boil the shrimps first and use the stock. And I saw also a package of crawfish tail meat, so I go, let me make shrimp and crawfish meat. Well, you know what, this isn't a quality one. It's very difficult to find crawfish tail meat with the fat. You'll see little specks of yellow in there. That's a very good quality. And we don't know where this came from. This could have come from China, whatever, and it's only passable. But I'm going to make it since I have it. And the other important thing is you need a stock. And you're not going to use a chicken stock when you're making seafood. You're going to either use a shrimp stock, which I'm lucky, I have a small fish market near me that they also have a restaurant attached, so they boil up shrimps and they take the shrimp stock and they put quarts of shrimp stock in the freezer. So I bought a quart. So with the quart of fish stock, which is back there, and I added a quart of water to it, when I boil these shrimps, we're going to have some strong stock. Now, when you're making shrimp dishes, you don't want to overcook the shrimps. I'm not saying that you should when making this, but this, if they're a little overcooked, it really doesn't matter that much. I remember I used to use, they would call these little TD shrimps. Oh, they're about that big. They come in a 5-pound block, and they're peeled, of course. And for an inexpensive gumbo, a seafood gumbo, it's a great item. So the first thing we're going to do is get all these vegetables sauteed. And if you heard of the term the Holy Trinity, that's onions, celery, and green pepper. And we're going to saute that along with the garlic and the okra. Not every gumbo has to have okra, but you know what? I like the taste. And if you serve it to people and they enjoy it, that's what cooking is all about. And the scallions we wait till later, we add on. And also the last thing we put into the gumbo, of course, is the filet powder. We sprinkle it on and then we serve it. And in the back here on the stove, I have some plain rice cooking up. So like in all things, you want to season. Now we can use Old Food Home's Cajun seasoning to make him feel good, since I said that his gumbo isn't the way I like it. But that's where he comes from, his background, the area where he comes from, that's the way they make the gumbo. So we're going to put a little of his gumbo seasoning on that. And we're going to saute this, and the okra is going to cook where it smells great already. To get all of the slime off of it, I'm going to put a little salt in there if I can find my good sea salt, which I'll get in a moment. Anyway, I'll add it towards the end of this. Doesn't really matter. This will saute. This could have color. This could be clear. It doesn't matter. Some people put a little tomato into the gumbo, but I'm not going to do that today. So we're going to watch the shrimps. It's going to be very strong flavor. So if you can't find the shrimp stock, then see if you can find fish stock for this. And if you can't find fish stock, get some bones and make your own. And while this is sauteing very nicely, the shrimps have been in there for 3 minutes, so we're going to just take them out. And I'm going to peel them and devein them. And we want to wind up with 2 quarts of stock. So we're going to measure that. Because we still have the to put in there. And we'll let this go in now to heat up, so later it will just simplify matters. This is good. Now what I'm going to do, after I take the crawfish out of there, I'm going to thicken that up. Because if I put the stock into with the vegetables, try to thicken it up with the roux, of course I'm going to break everything up with the whip. So we'll do it separate. And then after we get finished, just before we serve it, I'll put some ground sassafras, which is puree powder, and they'll be ready to go. The rice is done, scallions will be cut, it'll look and taste good. So I'm going to shut this off. I'm going to put this into the vegetables. It is a shame that it's very difficult up here in New York to buy the crawfish tail meat with the fat, which gives it all the flavor. When I lived in and worked in New Orleans, that's all we purchased. But that's what happens. Yes, we will need 2 quarts because this is quite a bit. Now I'm going to go peel the shrimps, then I'm going to thicken that up. Matter of fact, let me thicken it up. Should I measure it first to make sure I have 2 quarts? This way, when I tell you how much roux to use, yeah, let's measure it. I'll do that. I'm going to put back into here 2 quarts. If it's not 2 quarts, then I'll just add water. It's just about coming to a boil, so I can now start adding the roux. Just look at the color. Remember, nice mahogany shade. That's how it should be. Because not only does it give the taste to the gumbo, it also gives the color. I'm going to add a little bit. I'm going to whip it in. Now I could have had the roux warm already, which would have been easier. But I only want to take out of here what I need. As you can see, it does dissolve quickly. I don't think you find this type of roux in Italian cooking, Swiss cooking, French cooking. It's only down there in the good old bayous of Louisiana. And I definitely will go on my little road trip next year. We'll be going there. I'm going to let this simmer and let it get to the correct thickness that I want. Now it can be saucy or a little bit heavier than that. It's really the preference of the individual, because if you really want it, well, you don't want it too thick like wallpaper paste, and you don't want it thin, that it's too runny. Where a sauce should be, like when you make a sauce, when you put the spoon in, it should coat the spoon. So it's not even that texture yet. But we'll allow this to, I don't want to waste too much film doing this right here. So I'm going to lower the flame, go back to peeling the shrimps, and of course this is going to thicken up. And in about 5-6 minutes, I'll see how it is. Just lower the flame, and I'll be back. So we're now boiling. As you can see, it's not thick enough. So we'll just add some more roux. So, me, I'm kind of used to adding the roux, but I'm just showing you a little bit at a time, because if you make it too thick, what are you going to do? Then you're going to have to add water. And then you're diluting it. Unless you had more shrimp stock, which I do. But that's for my next recipe. And the shrimps, don't even think about buying peeled and deveined raw shrimps. You're wasting money, you're not going to get the flavor. It's just like when you're roasting a piece of meat, a piece of chicken, it always tastes better on the bone. So you think there's no difference in seafood. You take those plain peeled and deveined shrimps and you boil them. Then you take the same amount with the shell on and boil them, and tell me which one is better. Plus, the peeled and deveined frozen shrimp that are raw, they're IQF, they come individually, quick frozen. So when you thaw them out, look at all the water that comes off of them compared to almost nothing that comes off of these. So you just paid for water instead of shrimp. And check where the product is coming from. Try not to buy anything that's from China, because we all know how their fish and seafood are fed. I don't want to get in a discussion about that. What you have to do is just do a little research and find out for yourself. I'm not going to taste this until I put it in with the vegetables, because they're going to give me a lot more flavor. Now we're getting there, so I will leave this again for a few minutes. Now that's what I'm talking about. Notice how thick. Now, I'm going to pour this over the vegetables. And finish up. With adding salt and pepper. That smells. Smells very delicious. Now all the shrimps that I deveined, so the most time-consuming part of all of this is making the roux and peeling the shrimps. Now after this comes to a boil, alright, I'm not going to waste film right now. This I'm going to let come to a quick boil, simmer for a minute or two, and then finish up. Now I'm going to put some sea salt. Can you notice the color? How it's not pure white? So it hasn't been refined as much. It's good for you. Better than your table salt that you use. Now I'm going to put another teaspoon of that Cajun seasoning. You know, my wife can eat all the shrimps out of this. I care about this. The flavor. Where's all the flavor? It's in the sauce. Same thing with a lot of Italian dishes. You can throw out the seafood and just give me the sauce. That's it, I'm done. Simmer for 2 minutes, then I'll make the plate. Now I'll make that plate. Put that gumbo in there. That's enough for me. I don't want to have too much. It's late at night. The gumbo. The filet powder, which you always put in at the end. The rice. That's it. I hope you enjoy it, and I have to go sit down and eat this. Good night.